As 2024 wraps up, it's that time of year where Alex and I walk through our top 5 favorite motorcycles that we've ridden this year. We've been on a couple really cool programs. And to start off the list with number 5, this is a program for a new bike that Alex went on.
Yeah, this is the Yamaha MT9 SP. We had a chance to ride the MT9 twice this year, actually. We rode the standard version a little earlier in the year, and then we rode the nicer, more premium SP variant a little later in the year, and that's making the list for top 5, or number 5.
Yeah, partly because it's just a great all-around naked bike. Yamaha's 890cc CP3 has been a favorite of ours for a long time, especially a favorite of Alex's because you've owned an MT09 in the past. Mm-hmm. You've also had a Tracer with the same motor. And currently, you have an XSR 900.
Yep.
So you are a connoisseur of CP3.
Yeah, exactly. I love the CP3. Like Kay said, I had 2 of the older 847cc CP3. I now have the 890cc CP3 in my XSR 900. I love this motor. I also love the changes they've been doing to the MT09. And this year, they improved the styling, they improved the riding position to make that a little more aggressive. They made the sound a little better with these amplifier grills that they're putting on the top of the tank on a lot of their bikes. And then they upped the tech across the board on the whole bike. 5-inch TFT, all kinds of new tech. And then this SP version, Brembo brakes, nicer suspension. It's just an all-around killer package for just over 12 grand, between 12 and 13 grand. I couldn't recommend that bike more for a sporty street bike.
Yeah, and it is just an evolution of the MT09, but the cool thing about the MT09 and formerly the FZ09 is that we feel like they figured out the motor on that bike right off the bat, because that CP3 has always been fun, but as time has gone on, they have also transformed into handling motorcycles as well, which is really cool, and this bike is now the culmination of that over several generations and updates.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think they really nailed the motor in the first generation, almost a little
but at
too
speed,
much.
They were a little...
They were a little wobbly. They're starting to tame down the motor a little bit. Some people are complaining about second gear not being as good as it used to be. It's fine. It's still a great bike. Don't take those comments. Let them over-exaggerate your opinion, because it's still a great bike.
Yeah, I don't know. All of the CP3 stuff that's out now that I've ridden still feels pretty unhinged. It's a fun motor.
Yeah, so there you go. Number 5, MT09. Number 4 is the Honda DAX 125, which is a bike you got to ride and a bike we've been jonesing over for at least a year at this point.
Ever since we saw the DAX 125, we got excited because our guy here in Boulder, Andy Smith, he is a huge CT70 guy. And so we've spent quite a bit of time around the old CT70. So with this DAX 125 coming out, very much mimicking the style of the CT70, as we called it here in the States at least, it's really cool to see this bike shape revived. And so I got a chance to ride this DAX 125 pretty briefly, but a lot of how it rides is pretty similar to other mini motos out there. And it's a 124cc single, about 9 horsepower. This one has a semi-auto transmission, so you do click through the gears, but your clutch is built into that shifter, so you're not clutching manually at the bar. And I've seen already a kit online to transition that system over to a more traditional clutch, which I think would be really fun for how it rides, because if you could make this ride like a Monkey or a Grom in that you are clutching it manually, then this for me would be the perfect mini moto. And we love these mini motos because they get unreal fuel economy. They're a ton of fun to rip around on. They're very cheap. They're very nicely made. The fit and finish on them is exactly equal to that of any full-size motorcycle. And this one is also cool because you can carry a passenger on it.
Yeah, not many of Honda's mini motos come with passenger pegs. This one does. It's got a nice long flat seat. So that's a really cool feature. Honda's really just nailed this whole mini moto space. They're the only brand out there that has a really good mini moto platform, like the 125 engine, and then they stick it into a million different things. So, if you want the sport flavor, you can go get that. If you want the old school CT70 flavor in the stacks, you go get that. If you want it to look like a Super Cub, go get that. They all ride about the same. They all perform about the same. It's really just picking, what style you like. And so Honda's bringing another another one out from a style that was super, super popular back in the day. And I haven't ridden this one yet, but I did sit on it over at Some Enterprises, our local dealership here, and I had a huge smile on my face. It's a bike that I would love to have in the garage at some point.
It's a cool motorcycle, and these mini motos are huge sellers for Honda, not just for beginner riders, but for experienced riders who want a small bike to put around on and just have fun with, especially being that the MSRP on this bike is $4,200 plus destination and whatever fees you're going to incur at your local dealer. So you'll be out the door for more than that. But as far as bikes go, relatively inexpensive and a lot of fun.
Yeah, so there you go. Number 4, Honda DAX 125. One last thing on that, you're hoping for an orange one to come out. So Honda, if you're listening, make it an orange.
Because I have an orange CT70, so an orange DAX to go with my CT70 would be sweet.
Yeah, so there you go. Number 3 on the list is the Kawasaki Z500. Now, we've ridden all the bikes in Kawai's lineup with this motor at this point. There's a few of them. We just did the Ninja 7 Hybrid, which uses this motor at its base. But for this year, Kawasaki really made some major changes to both the Z500 and the Ninja 500. We rode both of them, but I'm putting the Z500 on this list just because I think it's the more approachable beginner entry-level bike, and I think more people should be gravitating to that bike than they really are. But yeah, tell us a little bit about the Z.
Yeah, it's got a 451cc parallel twin. They've changed up the styling, changed up the instrument cluster. Still a pretty affordable bike, starting at $5,599 or $6,299 if you want to get the SE model with a TFT, some unique colors, all LED lighting, some other add-on accessories. So it's a good basic motorcycle to get into. Parallel twin, as many bikes have already had and are continuing to move toward. For you, it seems like the Ninja 500, if you were shopping for yourself, would probably be your pick over the Z500, but we put the Z500 on this list because it makes sense probably for more people.
Yeah, exactly. The Ninja 500 is the one I would probably buy. The Z500 is the one I would probably recommend. It was very controversial when it came out this year. Everyone was so concerned that it was going to be too heavy now, and they upped the displacement and all kinds of stuff. It's still like the Ninja 400 and Z400 we really know and love. It's still super flickable. The size is basically the same or exactly the same. It's just a really approachable, good entry-level bike that I had a ton of fun on some twisty canyon roads. I always love riding a slow bike fast, but it's also a great bike for beginners. And one of the things I really like about the Z500 and the Ninja 500 for this year is the improvement in the tech category. Because for a while, you know, if you were into a bike with some nicer tech, you really had to go with a higher displacement bike to get that kind of stuff. And you felt a little cheated if you got one of the true entry-level bikes. So this year, with these bikes, if you're a rider that really should be on one of the lower displacement bikes, maybe you don't have a ton of experience, but you want all LED lighting and you want a TFT dash and all kinds of tech to play around with in front of you on the center screen, you can get that here on a Z500, and I think that's really cool.
Now for number 2 on this list, this is a bike that almost a year ago, but not quite, I went on the Program 4 in Las Vegas. We spent a little bit of track time on this bike and some time on the road, and this is the Harley-Davidson CVO Road Glide ST. Very different motorcycle from the other ones that we've been talking so far. These are big bikes, big motors, a fair bit of power. Yes, I know from the sport bike perspective, they're not the fastest things on the road, but these bikes are incredibly comfortable, still a lot of fun. As time goes on, these bikes handle better and better. It was interesting. I actually got to talk to one of the engineers on the race bike, the King of the Baggers race version of these motorcycles. And I was asking him, because they have to use certain factory parts. I asked him if he's able to talk to the engineering team for the street bike and say, hey, it would be great for the race bike if the frame on the street bike had this or that quality. And he looked kind of puzzled, and he said to me, it's the same engineering team. So the guys that are designing this street bike are also the guys that are designing the race bike, and the frame is the same. So these bikes actually have some pretty good fundamentals. because those King of the Baggers race bikes are only a couple seconds off the superbike times on the track. This bike obviously is not the race bike. This bike cannot lean nearly as far over as the race bike. As you can see in this picture, I'm fairly close to the kickstand there, but it's still a really fun handling bike. Nice fully adjustable Showa suspension, nice brake components. It's also really expensive.
Yeah, super expensive. What? They're like 30 grand at least?
43.
43 grand. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't super stoked on these when I first saw that, Harley was doing this kind of thing, but I've seen them in person now. They are epic looking in person. You could spend 20 minutes just walking around looking at all the little details and the materials and the forged carbon and the use of color, the use of materials. It's just a really well thought out bike, and it looks sporty, but also soft and floaty at the same time. It's a really unique thing Harley has going on right now. And I can appreciate the details. I also had the chance to go to a King of the Baggers race this year in April at MotoGP at Circuit of the Americas. And after seeing them race these things around the track, I'm hooked. I think it's really cool. Would I spend $43,000 on a bike that
a lot of money.
Is pretty compromised? It's got all the sporty parts, but it's not a great track bike, and it's compromised in a bunch of different weird ways. Would I spend?
I would.
He would.
I don't have 43 grand to spend, but I would. And I love that this is the direction that Harley is taking some of these bikes, because it just makes for a really entertaining motorcycle to ride. Whether you get it or you don't, these bikes, if you get on a bike of this size and you hustle it around, genuinely hustle this bike, if you're a motorcycle person, it will put a smile on your face. It is a lot of fun to ride. I also really like just the standard Street Glide, and I like the standard Street Glide more than the standard Road Glide just because of ergonomics. But the standard Street Glide, also really good bike, 26 grand, so still expensive as most big baggers are. But that one, a lot more reasonable and affordable, and still a really fun handling bike and a very comfortable bike. Really nice tech on these. So I just had a blast riding these bikes. And I was not a bagger person in the past, but the more time I've spent on these bikes and around them, I really want to get one. They're all fun.
Yeah, I agree. Number one, the Aprilia RS 457. And part of the reason that the Ninja 500 wasn't on this list is because I think if you're going to get the fully fared parallel twin low displacement, you should probably look at this Aprilia. It is an awesome little bike, 48 horsepower, 32 foot-pounds of torque out of this little parallel twin. It's the smallest engine Aprilia makes for their US market. Super lightweight, $6,800, so not a whole lot more expensive than the Ninja 500, but better quality parts, better fit and finish. Who knows what the reliability is going to be? We'll have to wait and see as time goes on, because Aprilia did have some pretty big issues with the RS 660 engine. But yeah, assistant slipper clutch, quick shifter is available. Ride-by-wire with different riding modes, which is kind of unique for the 400cc segment. It's the most premium 400 you can get right now. I had the chance to take it on the track in Italy, and it was just an epic little bike. Super fun to push hard, and I think it's worth the extra money if you're looking in that class of motorcycle.
Yeah, in this class of motorcycle, I think maybe for some people, when you talk about the most premium bike in the 400 to 500cc class, some people might shake their head a little bit, because this is meant to be sort of an entry-level class of bike. But that being said, this bike having nice components, nice tech features, makes it a better riding bike overall. And this class of motorcycle is really cool, because this is a great place to learn to be really great in the corners before you move up to a middleweight or even a leader bike, especially if you want to do some track riding, because I at least think it's cool when you're the guy passing leader bikes on corners, as do you, because that's typically you.
For sure, yeah. I love little bikes on racetracks. They're just more forgiving. It's easier to, you have more time if you make a mistake to correct that mistake. It's what most people should be riding if everyone puts their ego aside. But even as a street bike, I think it's way more fun to race around a little 400, 500 and get through all the gears than, have a leader bike that you're only making it up to second, third gear on half the times you go from light to light. So really awesome bike there. And the Ninja 500, it's great too. We talked about it a lot in this video, but I was expecting this Aprilia to be a little more expensive than it is. And I think for the price difference, it's definitely worth at least taking a look at the Aprilia.
Yeah, and like you said, riding a slow bike fast versus a fast bike slow, that creates a lot of fun. Ultimately, motorcycles for a lot of us are all about fun.
Yeah, exactly.
And this would be a great bike for that.
Now, for this whole video, these top 5 bikes, we have notes put together, right? We talked about this.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
What we haven't talked about before we started recording this is what's the worst bike we rode this year? Because I have a clear answer in my head. I think it's really obvious what the worst bike is.
What's your worst bike?
You can't think of it? We rode it together. We almost died on it together.
Oh. Yeah, I would concur. So, not to offend anyone, but it was the Ural that we rode with a sidecar, which was a cool experience because those bikes are classic. They've got a cult following. It was interesting to ride it and try to get a feel for it, get used to it. So entertaining, but yeah, we had some scary moments because the thing about a motorcycle with a sidecar, if you've never ridden one, and the first time I ever rode one was on camera. When you accelerate, it doesn't want to go straight. And when you brake, it doesn't want to go straight because you're accelerating with one wheel on one side of the motorcycle sidecar system. And when you brake, you've got 2 brakes on one side and 1 on the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that machine, I don't want to say it's it was the worst riding machine.
Yeah,
it was also really cool. Like having all these levers and reverse and 2-wheel drive to play with on a motorcycle. Super, super cool.
It was literally the worst riding of them.
Yeah.
Just objectively speaking, as far as how did it ride? Not as well as a Ducati. not as well as the bikes on this list. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. The thing about the Ural, cool. It's really cool. It'd be fun to own one and just take through the neighborhood every once in a while, but it's a lot of work riding one. And, what we just talked about, anytime you get on 2 wheels, we're just having the best time. And sure, this is 3 wheels instead of 2 wheels, but the whole time you're just
We were having fun.
We were having fun for sure, but you're kind of fighting it and it would get old after a little while. So anyway.
It is a little scary.
I wanted to throw the Ural into this video just because it came to my mind.
They're also...
I wanted to talk about it.
That being said, too, they're not especially cheap.
No, even used. They go for a lot of money used, too.
Yeah. I also want to say a quick thanks to our friends over at Rider Justice. They've been supporting this channel for a really long time. So if you need legal representation, either on 2 wheels or 4, they work with people all over the country. So be sure to call Scott first. You can check out that link down in the description below.
Anyway, there you go. There's our top 5 bikes for the year. Let us know what you ended up, taking home and putting in your garage this year. What are you riding in 2024 and into 2025? Thanks for watching. Check out alltfl.com. We'll see you in the next video.